Welcome back, everybody, to the Cleveland Cavaliers MyNBA series here on NBA2K21. Today is the series finale, the final part of the long-term sim, and we're going to simulate as far as we need to in today's episode in order to round out the careers of all of our talented players. Last episode was a very successful one. We added 5 more championships in the 5 seasons we went through. Odavius Sheppard and Nando Olivero each won 2 regular season MVPs. And Odavius Sheppard is continuing to trend towards being one of, if not the greatest player of all time. So we're going to see how he finishes his career today, along with the rest of this core. Guys like Nando Olivero, Jason Higgins-Wycraft, and all of our super talented role players as well. Guys like Mamadou, Kevin Porter Jr., Cam Reddish, Cedric Garrett, and all those role players are really starting to decline quickly now. So don't be surprised if they retire fairly soon into the video. Speaking of retirements, there are a few big names in this first retirement cycle, including Giannis Antetokounmpo, who has turned into one of the all-time NBA greats. Something that blows my mind is he has made more threes than Reggie Miller. I don't know how that makes sense, but okay. Devin Booker, Jamal Murray, Ben Simmons, Jaylen Brown, DeAndre Ayton, all retiring. There's the former Cavalier Obi Toppin, who's been very consistent throughout his career, 15 points per game. His career high in points was actually his rookie year, but he's been really solid with the Clippers and the Blazers throughout the long-term sim. Lloyd Pierce retires as well, and then Giannis, Booker, and Ben Simmons all make the Hall of Fame. A lot of jersey retirements: Booker, Brown, Simmons, Jamal Murray, and then Giannis for both the Bucks and the Lakers. Going into the draft lottery, we do not have any first-round picks at all this year. We are going to use one of our second-round picks to select Damian Blackman from high school. He's only 18 years old. He's a little bit raw, but I do like his upside. And then with the 60th overall pick, Mr. Irrelevant, we're going to select Luka Drobnjak out of Slovenia. I think this is the first time in like a while that I've used second round picks. This might be the first time in the entire long-term sim, which has been 10 years now, that I've used a second round pick, and we ended up using both of them. Blackman ends up being pretty good. He's a 71. Luka, on the other hand, I don't really think is going to really develop into all that much. Going into free agency, obviously we don't have enough money for the big fish, but I do want to bring back Jason Tatum. I like what he's provided for us as a backup center, so we're going to get back to him in a second. I do want to sign a few players who we actually can afford, including Henrik Svensson, who is a sharpshooter, doesn't really do much else, but he can shoot the cover off the ball. That's the only move we would end up making. Zion Hopkins gets a long-term contract from the Kings. That's pretty cool. He has not really gotten a super long contract before, so I'm happy for him. He deserves it. At the age of 31, he's going to get some legitimate financial security, if you will. In the players' progression stage, Jason Higgins-Wycraft goes down 2. He's really starting to regress. Garrett goes down 4. Porter goes down 5. Reddish goes down 3. No Jason Tatum, by the way. He did not sign the qualifying offer for whatever reason. I don't know why. He ended up signing with the Blazers, so that's kind of unfortunate. So now that he's gone, we need a new backup center, so we're going to acquire Jackson Hayes from the Orlando Magic. He can provide some depth behind Nando Olivero. The starting lineup going into season 15 is pretty much the same. The bench looks a little bit different, however. We do have some contract stuff to work out with Odavius Sheppard and Nando Olivero. Don't want any of those guys to leave anytime soon. Porter, Garrett, and Reddish are all free agents at the end of the offseason. They're not asking for too much money, as you can see, but as they get older and get worse, I think they'll ask for less money in the offseason, so we're going to wait to re-sign those guys, but obviously we will make it a priority to have all 3 of them retire as Cavaliers. We're going to simulate to about the middle of the season. Unfortunately, we got some bad news, however, as center Nando Olivero tore his Achilles. That's a big deal. He suffered a spinal injury a couple seasons ago, so Nando Olivero has been really good when he's on the floor, but that's when he's on the floor. He's had a lot of trouble staying healthy throughout his career. We need to find a replacement. I tried a few guys in the trade market. I couldn't really get anything going. So we're going to sign Wendell Carter, who's been a pretty good veteran throughout his career. He's now going to have to be our starting center with Nando Olivero injured. Jackson Hayes' workload will also increase as well. And we're going to need Odavius Sheppard and Jason Higgins-Wycraft to carry. Sheppard is averaging about 37 per game, which if it holds up, that would be his career high. We are playing good basketball. We are 30-8 about halfway through the season. Wendell Carter, in his first few games, has been pretty good. 5.7 points, 11.4 rebounds. That's all we need him to do. So we're now 40-16 at the All-Star break, half a game behind the Wizards for first place in the conference. Sheppard and Jason Higgins-Wycraft, both All-Stars, of course, per usual, very well deserved. Patrick Williams made his first All-Star game at like 35. That's kind of random. We're going to simulate to the end of the season. Hopefully we can get the 1 seed. We have gotten the 1 seed 11 years in a row, so that'd be unfortunate if we lost that streak. Sheppard ends up winning MVP, averaging 37, 9, and 7. Jason Tatum wins Most Improved in Portland. Can't really say I'm all that surprised by that, because now he gets more minutes. Sheppard makes the All-NBA First Team, Higgins-Wycraft All-NBA Third Team, and All-Defensive First Team. So as you can see, we are not the 1 seed, we are the 2 seed. This is the first time since Season 3 that we were not the top seed in the conference, which is kind of wild. As you can tell, some of these guys down here, like Cam Reddish, are really starting to regress. Some of those guys are really nearing the end. So we're going to be playing the Atlanta Hawks here in the first round. They have a guy named Lyle Lyles, that's funny. And they swept us! Okay, was not expecting that. The Wizards end up defeating the Blazers in the finals. Phil Martin wins finals MVP. The Wizards are led by Martin, Amari Johnson, and DJ Wiseman. So our streak of 7 finals in a row comes to an end via a sweep. A lot of big names retiring in here. Wendell Carter calls it a career. The former Cavalier Colin Sexton retires. Wherever he was, he always put up buckets. 24.5 points per game, over 30,000 points in his career, yet he never made an All-Star team. Spent time in Houston, New York, the Clippers, ended off with the Jazz. Darius Garland also retires. He was also a very good player throughout his NBA career. Not quite as good as Sexton, but still really solid. Ja Morant retires as well. He makes the Hall of Fame along with Trae Young and Brandon Ingram. Ingram, Ja, and Trae Young all get their jerseys retired. Young by both Atlanta and OKC. So we do have a lottery pick. Look at this! We move up from 9 to 4. There you go. So we're going to be picking in the top 4. We replaced Chris Paul on our staff with Giannis, by the way. So Giannis is now an assistant coach. So going into the draft, I want to get this number 4 overall pick right. I want to hold on to this pick because with all of our aging veterans, I do want to add some young players to the squad. So with the 4th pick, we're going to select Pedro Paulista out of Brazil. We're going to move up from our 30th pick. We're going to give up 5 second-round picks in the process, and we're going to select center Calvin Berry at 17 overall. He's going to be the new backup with Wendell Carter retiring and Jackson Hayes being, well, pretty old. I think those were the 2 best picks we really could have made. Barry is a 73 and Pedro is a 75. So I think we did pretty well with those selections. Dwayne Lyles is a free agent going into the offseason. I do believe it would be in our best interest to bring him back. A lot of big names in this class, including Terrence Cole. We also have Cedric Garrett, Kevin Porter Jr., and Cam Reddish as free agents. We have to bring them back because, well, they're going to be Cavalier lifers. Sure enough, they all would accept. Dwayne Lyles got a $115 million contract from the Spurs. I decided to match it. With those other 3 players not making a lot of money, I think we have more financial flexibility, so I decided to bring him back. I also want to bring back Yusuf Diafafafobo, who's nearing the end of his NBA career at 35 years old, have him retire as a Cavalier. And I went after a few other players as well, including point guard CJ Cruz Jr., who's been a guy who I've always really liked throughout his NBA career. Both Cruz and Big Fafa would accept as we take a look at all of the moves. Terrence Cole back to Philadelphia. Antoine Higgins signs with the Hawks. That's a big deal. Mercedes Ranch and Tavion Wilkins return to their former teams. James Wiseman is now a Spur. Tavion Thomas goes to Houston. And Zario Papadopoulos, the longtime Detroit Piston, is now a Clipper. Sheppard sees his first signs of regression. He's now a 98. Nando goes down 3. Higgins-Wycraft down 4. All the role players are going down very quickly. Cedric Garrett is a 71, yet he is still our starting power forward. So our team has quickly become the youngest in the league to now probably the oldest. Going to be simulating to around the middle of the season, and again, we're playing pretty well for the most part. Our big 3 of Sheppard, Higgins-Wycraft, and Nando all made the All-Star game. Nando Olivero is still playing at a high level. He is currently the MVP favorite, with Sheppard right behind in second. Hey, Tavion Thomas, first-time All-Star. So I do want to point something out with the older players. You may notice that with the contract thoughts, it says what they're going to do at the end of the season, and Kevin Porter Jr. and Cam Reddish both say that they're going to retire. Kevin Porter Jr. didn't explicably say that, but you know what he means. So this means that this is going to be the final year for Cam Reddish and Kevin Porter Jr., so we want to end their careers off strong. Nando Oliveira wins his 3rd MVP award. Jason Tatum wins 6th Man of the Year. He gets another award. Antoine Higgins, Defensive Player of the Year. The Wizards coach ends up winning Coach of the Year. Sheppard, Higgins-Wycraft, and Nando all make All-NBA teams. Higgins-Wycraft does not make an All-Defensive team, though, for the first time in a while. So we are back to being the 1 seed. Our big 3 was all very good. The old guys, though, are regressing quite a lot. Cam Reddish and Cedric Garrett, they were not particularly good this year. So we're playing the Knicks here in the first round. They don't have any names that I recognize. That's how far ahead we are, and they ended up losing in 5 to us. Now playing the Sixers in the second round, and Terrence Cole and Voshawn Williams-Garber are both injured. So their highest-rated player is like a 79. Thankfully, we had no problem with them. Now playing the Heat in the conference finals, led by the front court of Mercedes Ranch III and Zach Bowman, and we end up sweeping them. Now taking on the Blazers in the finals, of course, with Jason Tatum. Their highest-rated player is Judd Lyles, who's like an 84, so we should be able to beat them. Currently up 2-1, now 3-1. Going to simcast Game 5, and as you can see, we're going to have no problem with them. So the Cleveland Cavaliers have now won their 10th NBA Finals in the past 13 years, so everybody with our core now has 10 championships. Well, Nando doesn't. He has like 5 or 6. Nando would win the Finals MVP, his 2nd. So it's good to see us getting back into the win column when it comes to the finals. And now on to retirements. A lot of big names here, and as you can see, we got hit hard. Reddish, Porter, Cedric Garrett, all retiring. They weren't the only big-time players to retire, though. Jason Tatum, going to call it a career. He's definitely a Hall of Famer. Jaren Jackson's going to be a Hall of Famer. Great career with Memphis, the Lakers in Minnesota. But now let's talk about our guys, starting with Kevin Porter Jr. KPJ was the only player in this series who was on the team at the start of the year and ended the series, Season 4, still on the roster. And, well, he ended up sticking around another 12 seasons. An excellent bench player for us, over 17,000 points is our 6th man. 10-time NBA champ. I know it says 9, but some of the years were glitched for whatever reason. So hats off to an awesome career for Kevin Porter Jr. Cam Reddish, another one of our mainstays off the bench, also retiring. Once we started the long-term sim after our first championship, I did not plan on bringing Reddish back, but I ended up doing so, and well, he ended up sticking around another 12 years. Also a 10-time champ, so might as well get to say it for the last time. Kevin Porter Jr. and Killer Cam Reddish. Man, I'm going to miss saying that. Cedric Garrett was not originally supposed to retire, but he ends up calling it a career, and he's been super consistent. He always averages around 15 to 19 points per game, grabs boards, great passer. He was a phenomenal playmaker. Great defensive player as well. The first 11 games of his career, he came off the bench, and he started every single game after that. Just the model of consistency. He never made an all-star team, but he won 10 NBA championships with us and was always a very key player in our success. So we're losing 3 of our main role players. Certainly sucks to see them go. CJ Cruz retires. Frank Nwora ends up retiring as a member of the Clipper. I kind of wanted to bring him back for 1 year, so I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't really get the chance to do that. But he had a very interesting career. Could have gone better, but I think he was a good player for the most part, and, well, he made it work with his scoring. Bam Adebayo, Jason Tatum, and Jaren Jackson all make the Hall of Fame. Tatum and Bam got their numbers retired. We also had Cam Reddish and Cedric Garrett get theirs. Very well deserved, but if you're going to retire Reddish and Garrett, what about Kevin Porter Jr.? I think Porter was better than Reddish for the most part throughout this series, so if you're going to retire Reddish, who absolutely deserves it, you got to retire Porter too. So the only players left from our original championship team are Sheppard, Higgins-Wycraft, and Mamadou, and technically Big Fafa, but he doesn't really count because he has not been here for most of the series. I ended up moving up to pick 16. There were a few players I really wanted in this class, and we ended up selecting Freddie Woods, an 18-year-old versatile playmaker out of Colorado. He's a really good scorer. I wish his defense was a little bit better, but he's certainly not terrible. And we're also going to trade our 30th overall pick for 2 future second-round selections. And with Mr. Irrelevant, we're going to select Bill Kane out of George Mason. So a pretty good draft. I think Freddie Woods can be a really nice piece for the future as we continue to try and attempt to get younger because, well, we're an old team. We have a lot of old players, and we need to kind of retool in order to stay as a championship contender. Mamadou Etienne is a free agent. Don't want him going anywhere. He will accept. He's also not asking for a lot of money because he's getting older. There were a few other players I wanted to sign, including Jackson Brown, who's a great three-point shooter. Big man Eddie Mullen, who has been a consistent double-double guy throughout his career. Both of them ended up accepting. And then that's all we did. Looking at the moves, Howie Jamison signs with Denver. That is really the only notable player joining a new team as we get to player regression, I'm going to call it now, because everybody, it feels like, is getting worse. Sheppard went down quite a bit. Nando and Higgins-Wycraft are going down pretty quickly now. I'm surprised Nando has regressed so quickly. I know his peak in age was kind of short, but I'm surprised to see him falling off this quick. Both Nando and Higgins-Wycraft accepted one-year extensions. I don't want to sign them to super long-term deals because they're going to get worse and they're going to ask for less money. So I want to be smart with their contracts. Looking at the All-Stars, of course, we had O'Davious Sheppard, Jason Higgins-Wycraft, and Nando Olivero all make it once again. So although those guys are regressing, it is good to see that they are all still playing at an all-star level. I want to point out that O'Davious Sheppard is at right around 38,000 points. He's very close to passing Kareem, currently 5th all-time in points behind Kareem, Giannis, Luka, and LeBron. So he's probably going to be second very soon, and he will pass LeBron, I would imagine, in this video. Sheppard ends up winning the MVP. That is his 5th of his career, one shy of the record. Jeremiah Okoye wins Defensive Player of the Year. He is still really good, and he is still in Indiana. But one player drafted ahead of O'Davious Sheppard. Good to see him having a great career. Pedro Paulista, our very own, wins Most Improved. That's pretty cool. Our big 3 all made NBA teams. Higgins-Wycraft also made the all-defensive team again this year, so that's good. Here's a look at the numbers. Of course, the main guys doing their thing. Mamadou is still producing at a pretty high level. So we're going to be playing the Pistons in the first round. This is a very different looking team, led by Benjamin Allen and Noel Stanley. No more Zario Papadopoulos, of course. So the series is currently tied at 3. Nando just broke his wrist. So I decided to simcast Game 7 of the first round without Nando Olivero. And I really thought we were not going to win this game, but we made a sharp comeback. So I decided to hop in with about 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Mamadou Etienne is at the free-throw line. If there's anybody in NBA history you want at the line, it's probably Mamadou, who is, like, at this point, the greatest free-throw shooter of all time. First one, good. Second one, good. We were down by 10 with, like, a minute left. I don't know how this has happened, but here we are. Benjamin Allen with it, guarded by Mamadou. Can Mamadou get the stop? Allen inside, no good. Great defense by Mamadou, and now Sheppard's going to hold on to try to end the series. Sheppard does not have a lot of space. 4-3, no good, and we are going to overtime. We are going to simcast the overtime if it gets close. Again, we are going to hop in. We're currently on top. Not a lot of points here in OT. Now the Pistons are up by 1 with 1:45. I decided to hop back in. This game really looks like it's coming down to the wire. Cavs starting with the ball. It's Jason Higgins-Wycraft for the layup. He now has 34 and 11. Quite an impressive Game 7 for JHW as the Cavs are now up by a point. Atkins trying to drive inside. His shot no good, but a big putback from Noel Stanley will put the Pistons up top. 142-141. Now Higgins-Wycraft again driving in the lane. Nobody inside. I don't know why the Pistons are not trying to defend him, and he would make the layup. Benjamin Allen now with it. Allen for 3, and the lead, it's good! Benjamin Allen gives the Pistons the lead, 147-143. O'Davious Sheppard on the drive, over to Higgins-Wycraft for 3, it's good! JHW now with 39, and again, it's a 1-point game. Benjamin Allen for 3, again, this time no good. Good defense by Mamadou. Sheppard with the rebound, back out to Mamadou for 3, bang! Mamadou Etienne, the old man, gives Cleveland the lead. It's weird referring to him as an old man because I'm used to him being super young. Cavs up by 2. Benjamin Allen inside for the tie. No good. Great defense by Higgins-Wycraft. Last touched by Allen. And it is Cleveland ball. After a couple free throws, the Pistons get it back. 4-point game. Allen for 3. Air ball. Paulista with the rebound. Cavs get it in for Sheppard, who would make a couple free throws. And this game appears to be over. 155-147 in overtime. We did not need this first round series to be this thrilling, but hey, we'll take it. Unfortunately, we will be without Nando Olivero for, I guess, probably the next playoff series or two as we take on the Philadelphia 76ers. Unlike last year, Terrence Cole and Voshon Williams-Garber are both healthy, and that proved to be a problem. They won the first 3 games. We won the next 3. They ended up winning Game 7. The Wizards do win the finals, though, so back-to-back for Washington. And Terrence Cole can now finally say he has defeated O'Davious Shepperd in a playoff series. It only took like 15 years. A lot of big-time retirement. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, an all-time great Indiana Pacer. Luka Doncic, who nearly had 40,000 points along with 10,000 boards and 10,000 assists. Zion Williamson also retiring as a member of the Dallas Mavericks. Kobe White was an all-time great scorer in Chicago and Houston. I never thought I'd say that about Kobe White. A lot of other key players here. Tyrese Halliburton, Killian Hayes, Cole Anthony. Zario Papadopoulos is retiring at the ripe age of 35. Peak Zario will be unmatched, him averaging nearly 50 a game, over 30,000 in his career. It's unfortunate that he regressed so quickly. He never made it out of the second round of the playoffs, but he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer without a doubt. Big Fafa also retiring. He averaged a double-double in his career. I'm happy to say that he did retire as a Cleveland Cavalier, and in his final season, he did get a ring. 4-time NBA champion. I'm pretty sure one of those rings might have been in New Orleans. I could be wrong about that. James Smith also retiring. He was a phenomenal scorer throughout his career with the Grizzlies as well. A few other former Cavs in Jamar Humphrey and Siuka Boul-Batife. So yeah, this retirement class is absolutely loaded. So many good players. Luka Doncic, Zario Papadopoulos, Zion Williamson, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Kobe White all make the Hall of Fame. Killian Hayes and James Smith also get jersey retirements as well. On to the draft lottery. The Pacers get the number 1 pick. We have picked 29, and we would end up staying at 29 to select Jawan Houston out of South Florida. He's pretty young, and I like his upside, so I think he can be a pretty good player for us if we develop him correctly. Going into the offseason, Mamadou again is a free agent. He's only asking for about $5 million as he continues to get older and worse. I decided to offer Jalen Smith a contract. He's like the oldest player in the league at this point, but he still has value as someone who can defend inside and grab boards. I like what Jackson Brown provided for us last year, so we're going to bring him back as well on a 1-year deal. Free agency ended up being pretty uneventful for the most part. All of the key players returned to their old squads. And our guys are continuing to regress quick. Shepperd goes down 3. Nando down 4. Higgins-Wycraft down 4. Mamadou goes down 5. As we get to the 4th season of today's episode, which is season 18 total. As we sim to the contract extension stage, we're not doing very well. We're 22-20, currently the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. What has happened? We do re-sign Shepperd and Higgins-Wycraft on 1-year deals. And then as I simulated the All-Star break, now we're 34-21. We are 13-1 in our past 14 games. O'Davious Shepperd is an All-Star along with Jason Higgins-Wycraft. No Nando Olivero. His numbers have fallen off. He's still averaging at like 15, and 4. He's still been a good player, but he's a fraction of what he used to be. Ed Leiden of the Timberwolves wins MVP. This is the first time in like 6 or 7 years that a Cavalier does not win the MVP. O'Davious Shepperd makes the All-NBA first team. Higgins-Wycraft made the All-Defensive second team, although he's not making All-NBA teams anymore. It seems like age is finally starting to catch up with him. So we end up being the 3 seed, which, considering how we started the year, is a pretty big success. Here's a look at the numbers. Some of the young guys are really starting to play well, like Freddie Woods. Pedro Paulista will be out for the entire playoffs with a torn MCL, by the way. So we're going to be playing the Orlando Magic in the first round. This team does not look all that scary. They do have Jason Tatum, who has continued to be a really good player since he has left our squad. He probably would be the starting center now at this point with Nando's regression. So we are going to simulate forward, and we end up winning in 5 in a gentleman's sweep. Now taking on the Wizards, who have won 2 of the 3 previous championships. They still have Amari Johnson. They still have G.J. Wiseman. They are going to be without Phil Martin, though, who is currently injured. That is a big deal, but they still do have 2 healthy superstars on their roster, so it's still going to be a major challenge. And we end up winning in 5. Now taking on the Sixers in the conference finals. They beat us last year. And they still have Voshon Williams-Garber, who has regressed quite a bit. He's now only a 76 overall. Terrence Cole is hurt again. He tore his hamstring. So, poor guy, I guess. He won't get an opportunity to beat us in a playoff series, but Voshon Williams-Garber will. The Sixers eliminate us, and the Rockets end up winning the finals in 7. So Philly nearly won the finals without Terrence Cole. Houston wins a championship before Antoine Higgins. Higgins was with Houston for a while. He left for Atlanta, and Houston has won a championship without him. Jackie Hudson wins Finals MVP, and shout out to NBA champion Tavion Thomas. He was on this Rockets team. So in the 4 seasons we've covered today, we've only won 1 NBA championship. We have won the first 3 MVPs before Ed Leiden won it this year. I find it cool that Sheppard and Nando went like alternating MVPs for like 8 straight years. That's kind of funny. Looking at the retirements, Jalen Smith retires. Anthony Edwards retires with the Heat. He had a great career in Miami, Minnesota, and Milwaukee. It seems like he gravitated towards places that started with the letter M. LaMelo Ball also retires as a member of the Timberwolves, but he will mainly be remembered for his time with the Charlotte Hornets. Both LaMelo and Edwards had great careers. The top 3 picks of 2020 are all going to be Hall of Famers. With LaMelo and Edwards, they're probably going to go in. And James Wiseman, who is still in the league, I would imagine he's going to make it too. DeKalen Savage Jr. retires. He had one of the most unique careers throughout this series. His best time was in Brooklyn. He did not average a ton of points, only 11 throughout his career, but he was a great rebounder, a phenomenal defender. He won the Defensive Player of the Year award 4 times, All-Defensive Team 9 times, including 7 on the first team. So he had a really interesting career. He was a pretty fun player to follow throughout this series. That's pretty much all the notable retirements. We do lose Jackson Brown. Romeo Laguancho also retires, the first-round pick from year 1 by our Cavaliers. Hall of Fame inductees, as I said, Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball get in. LaMelo gets his Charlotte Hornets number retired. No Anthony Edwards, though. I guess he was not in Milwaukee, Minnesota, or Miami long enough. So looking at the draft, we have the 25th pick this year. The Oklahoma City Thunder will be picking number 1 overall. We ended up trading pick 25 to the Lakers for a future first-round pick. The Lakers have been like really bad throughout this entire series. I can't remember the last time I've seen them in the playoffs. So I think that pick could be pretty good. Here's a look at the draft results. We did not pick anybody this year, although we do have a few young players who are developing. We do not add anybody this year because there wasn't really anybody I liked with our selection. Taylor McKinney was the number 1 pick, and this is how far we've gotten along. This series started in September of 2020. Taylor McKinney was born in December of 2020. So he was not alive when this series started, and some of the young guys in next year's draft class would not be alive right now in 2021, which is just really hard to think about. The free agency class is really good, headlined by Antoine Higgins. Mamadou is a free agent this offseason, so I wanted to make sure to bring him back. He's only asking for the minimum now that he's a 71 overall. He has no reason to ask for much money. Antoine Higgins ended up leaving the Hawks. He signs with the Spurs, and Atlanta replaces him with Jackie Hudson. So, just like Higgins, Hudson is a great Houston Rocket and then leaves for Atlanta, which is kind of funny. Maybe he'll join the Spurs on his next contract. Odavius Shepperd goes down 3. Even Dwayne Lyles is regressing, and he's 25. This really is the player regression stage. Higgins Wycraft is now only an 80. Nando is now only a 79. And Mamadou, dear God, what's he going to be? A 68. Ouch. I have to assume this is probably Mamadou's final season. Here's a look at the rotation now going into season 19 of the series and the 5th of today's episode. I do want to point out a fun storyline to look out for as this episode winds down. The top player in this year's draft class is Odavius Shepard Jr. I think you guys can put the pieces together here. Odavius Shepperd's son is in the draft class, and Odavius Shepperd and his son will look to be the first father-son duo to play together in the NBA at the same time. LeBron James and Bronny James hope to do that in real life, but since Bronny James was not in this series, that never happened. Speaking of LeBron James, he is still first in scoring, but not by much. Odavius Shepperd is right on his tail. He's going to break that record this season, unless he gets hurt, which would be pretty bad. So Odavius Shepperd will be the NBA's all-time leading scorer in due time. We're doing pretty well at the moment. We're 33-23 at the All-Star break, currently the 3 seed. Odavius Shepperd makes the All-Star game, and spoiler alert, he has broken LeBron's record officially, so he is now the NBA's all-time leading scorer, which is certainly just an incredible honor. Jason Higgins Wycraft would not make the All-Star team as he continues to regress and get worse. I think this is the first time in the past decade he has not made the All-Star team. So I'm trying to make a move here at the Grizzlies. I traded Dwan Lyles straight up for Dustin Jackson. Jackson has 2 years left on his deal. Lyles has 1. I want to make a big move in the offseason, and I think Dustin Jackson for right now is a little bit better anyway than Dwayne Lyles, who has had a pretty rough season. Jackson is 35 years old. He's not as good of a long-term piece as Lyles, but he's a bucket getter. He's averaging 25 a game this year, and with him being under contract for another year, I do want to make a splash in the offseason. We're going to be trading Pedro Paulista, who is really not developed at all, along with Bill Kane, 2 other expiring contracts, for Quinn Valentine, who has 2 years left, and a future first-round pick. Again, I want to get players who are under contract for next year so we can make a big move this upcoming offseason. The team looks quite a bit different. We definitely shuffled the deck a little bit as we go to the end of the season. Hopefully these moves will end up helping our seeding and our playoff chances. Antoine Higgins wins the MVP award finally. He's been in the league for quite a while. He's been a dominant player for quite a while. 8-time All-Star, 6-time first-team All-NBA, but has not won an MVP until now. He also wins Defensive Player of the Year as well as we look at the All-NBA teams. No Sheppard on the first team. He does get on the second team, though. No Nando, no Higgins Wycraft, obviously. Dwayne Lyles made the all-defensive first team. Maybe we should not have traded him. I don't know. Looking at the season, we ended up as the 5 seed. That is the lowest seed we've been in O'Davia Sheppard's entire career. Sheppard averaged 36 and 6. Higgins Wycraft only averaged around 19.4. Nando's stats were about similar to what we last saw them. He finished with 16.4 points, 14.5 rebounds, and sure enough, he's injured right now. Shocker. Going to be playing the Hawks again in the first round. They've been a very consistent team the past few years. Even though they don't have Antoine Higgins anymore, they still do have that other guy from the Rockets, Jackie Hudson. And they beat us in 5. Why have we been so bad in the playoffs today? In the 5 seasons of this episode, we've only won 1 championship. The Sixers win the final, so Terrence Cole gets another championship ring, which is really cool to see. This is his first championship in over a decade. And Voshawn Williams-Garber, who has spent his entire 17-year career with the Sixers, finally gets a ring. So I do think that is pretty cool. Going into the offseason, a lot of retirements. James Wiseman, who's one of the all-time great rebounders. There's Cassius Calvin, the first player drafted in this series. Man, did he live up to that hype. Drafted by the Pacers, also had a great career with the Phoenix Suns. One of the all-time great players. He finished with a good 36,000 points, I think. He is the all-time leader in threes in NBA history as well. Great passer as well. I believe he is second in assists. Unfortunately, he never won a championship. He made the finals once in Phoenix, but lost to us. Voshawn Williams-Garber is retiring. He showed that traditional low-post big men can still have an impact in the modern league. He made 1 3-pointer in his career. That was as a rookie, and I'm pretty sure that was against us. I could be wrong, but I remember him hitting a 3 against us. Mamadou Enechenia will be, in fact, calling it a career. Going into the long-term sim, I said that Mamadou Enechenia was going to develop into a star-level player, and he never really did that. He averaged 14 points in his career, but he was a great role player for us. He was the starting small forward for much of this series, and he has been a phenomenal player for this team. Definitely worth the 15th overall pick in the 2022 draft, and not to mention he's like the greatest free-throw shooter of all time. Had multiple seasons in which he made every single free throw, and he attempted like 200, 300 free throws in those seasons, which is not a small sample size. Mamadou will finish as a 10-time NBA champion, never had any other awards, no All-Stars, no All-NBA, didn't even make an All-Rookie team, but still a very impressive career. Benjamin Allen, he was a phenomenal scorer with a lot of teams. He retires. Tavion Wilkins, the very first player drafted in the long-term sim, retires only at 34. Spent his entire 15-year career with Oklahoma City, and he was a phenomenal player as well, certainly likely going to be a Hall of Famer. The former Cavalier Trevor John calls it a career as well. So, with how much talent has been in the NBA, it's no surprise that there are so many good players retiring each season. Tim Duncan is retiring. How old is he now? Like I guess he's got to be in like his 60s. Jeez, time flies. Cassius Calvin, Voshon Williams, Garber, Tavion Wilkins, and James Wiseman are all in the Hall of Fame. Very well deserved. They all are absolutely Hall of Famers. Mamadou gets his number 0 retired by us. I love to see that. Cassius Calvin gets his retired by Indiana and Phoenix. Voshon Williams, Garber, James Wiseman, and Tavion Wilkins as well get their numbers retired by their main teams. For whatever reason, LeBron James is still listed ahead of Odavius Shepperd in scoring. I checked Odavius Shepperd, and his total points was different from that number. I noticed later when I was recording that his 2029-2030 season was like missing. I don't know how a season goes missing, but it was not there for whatever reason. So now on to the draft lottery. We do have a lottery pick projected at 8, and we do end up getting 8. But we're not staying at 8. What I've been planning is a big move to jump up from 8 to 1. We're going to be trading pick 8, Quinn Valentine, 2 seconds, and 2 future firsts for the number 1 overall pick. I also want to mention that we hired Zario Papadopoulos as an assistant coach. That's kind of cool. But there's a player in this draft that I'm targeting, and if you remember, Odavius Shepard Jr. is in this draft class, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That's who we want at number 1. That's who I've been doing this master plan around. That's why I traded for those guys with 2 years left on their deals, because I wanted to have enough assets to move up to the number 1 pick. So that's what we're going to do. Odavius Shepard Jr. is now on the team. To keep things simple, I'm just going to call him Jr. throughout the rest of the video. So whenever I say Odavius Shepard, I mean Odavius Shepard Sr. Whenever I say Jr., I mean Odavius Shepard Jr. I hope that makes sense. You'll be able to tell. Jr. is an 84 overall. I think his dad was an 85 when we drafted him. So pretty close to his father. I'm pretty sure those probably are the 2 highest rated players who have been drafted since the entire series. And it's ironic that, well, they're father and son. Going into free agency, we do have a few players we need to bring back, including Jason Higgins-Wycraft, Nando Olivero, and Calvin Barry. Unfortunately, Calvin Barry does not want to come back, and that sucks because I really like what he provides. Rebounding, pretty good defense, and a lot of rebounding. He averaged 18 boards per game this past season, so I really wanted to get him back, and I would be willing to pay a big sum of money, but I guess he does not want to return. I guess he wants a bigger role. So we're going to have to find a replacement for him. I want to find someone else who can defend at a high level and grab boards. So we're going to go after Ray Morris Sr., who is younger and a lot cheaper. So he's pretty much Calvin Barry at Walmart, kind of. I hope that makes sense. So as you can see, again, not a ton of big moves for the most part. All of the top 3 agents are staying with their main teams. I think Jalen Dunn is kind of a big change. He is joining the Trailblazers. Mercedes Ranch III is now a Sixer. I'm pretty sure that's new. Odavius Sheppard goes down 4. He is only 2 ratings higher than his son. Dustin Jackson goes down 5. He's a 79. Jason Higgins-Wycraft and Nando Olivero both went down a lot. So, as you can tell, the old guys are falling very quickly. We are definitely nearing the end of their careers, but we do have a lot of good young players like Juwan Houston, Freddie Woods, and now Junior, who hopefully can, develop. We're going to send Junior into weight camp, just like father, like son. Junior is not as much of a ramen noodle as his dad was early on. Junior is 2 inches shorter. He's only 6'7", and he is probably around 25 pounds heavier than Odavius Sheppard was when he got drafted. So I guess that's worth noting. Our top scoring options will be Odavius Sheppard, followed by his son, and Jason Higgins-Wycraft. So we're going to simulate to the middle of the season, and we are not doing well at all. We are 19-37. That is really bad. But it's not at the fault of either Odavius Sheppard's. Both of them ended up making the All-Star team. Odavius Sheppard made it as a starter, and his son made it as a backup on the same team. Junior's numbers are honestly a little bit better than his father's right now, which is kind of wild. We're going to be simulating now to the end of the season. Zach Bowman, who was only an 84 overall, wins MVP. Junior ends up winning Rookie of the Year, averaging 28, 10, and 8. Junior makes the All-NBA first team over his dad, who makes the All-NBA second team, which is kind of wild. As you can see, we are not in the playoffs. This is the first time in Odavius Sheppard's, 18-year career that he has missed the playoffs. So Odavius Sheppard and his son have missed the playoffs the same amount of times. That's kind of funny, considering O'Davious Sheppard's been in the league for nearly 2 decades. The Sixers win their second straight championship, so Terrence Cole gets his 4th ring, and Mercedes Ranch, another player who's been so good for so many years, 10-time All-Star, he finally gets a ring as well. Looking at the retirements at the top of the list, it's Jason Higgins-Wycraft, now 36 years old, calling it a career. He has been in the league for 17 years. I know it says 21, but that's a lie. He had a very interesting start to his career. In his 3rd season, he tore his Achilles, and then he was better since that injury. He came back better than ever, made 10 straight All-Star teams, 10 NBA championships, made a number of All-NBA teams, a number of All-Defensive teams. I believe he is 3rd all-time in threes. He's definitely high up there in assists, 27,000 points. Just an unbelievable career. Zion Hopkins retires. He was always a bucket getter and well worth a 2nd-round pick, even though he never really developed with us. Patrick Williams retires. He's the last real player in this series. Malachi Everett also retired. He had over 30,000 points. A lot of coaches retiring. The only Hall of Famer in this class is Jason Higgins-Wycraft. He gets his jersey retired along with Musa Onyejekwe by the Bulls and Bo James by the Trailblazers. So it's great to see Higgins-Wycraft in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely well-deserved. And he is the first player in this series, not counting Kawhi Leonard, to get into the Hall of Fame. So now the only player left from our original championship team is O'Davious Sheppard, who is 36 years old. He has 10 championships. I know it says 9, but again, that's a lie. He has 10. And the all-time record for a single player is 11. I think we have 2 more years of O'Davious Sheppard before he retires. At least that's what I anticipated going into the offseason. And because of that, I want to make a big move. We definitely have financial flexibility. Junior is the only player under contract next year. We also are probably going to bring back Juwan Houston on the team option. But other than those 2, everybody else is a free agent. We're going to keep our 1st-round pick and select Chucky Drew, who's probably going to be our starting center next season, and then we traded our 2nd-round pick for a few other future seconds, and then at pick 60, we selected Ivan Bagarac out of, I believe, Croatia, I think. I don't remember. It's one of those European countries. So a pretty good draft. I think Chucky Drew is going to be pretty solid, and Ivan Bagarac is not too bad. So O'Davious Sheppard is a free agent, and obviously we cannot let him go. If he signed with another team, I would make sure to trade for him, but I don't want to give up assets, so I literally offered him the max, which maybe I shouldn't have done, but I wanted to make sure he'd come back. Nando's going to get the minimum. We're going to try to re-sign Dustin Jackson. All 3 of them accept. So that is very good news. And we do have some financial flexibility. I know it says we have negative 50 mil, but that's not technically true. So I want to sign a big name. We don't get Jawan Butler, unfortunately. He signs with the Nuggets. So my next attempt was with Keith Monroe, who's only asking for around 20 a year. I upped that to 30. And we're not going to be able to accept his because we had to match Freddie Wood's offer, which is kind of big. So now we're down to 17 mil. We're going to offer Jerry Irving a contract. We're also going to offer Ibrahim Karambo, who is still in the league at like 36. So Jerry Irving ended up accepting another offer. He signed with the Toronto Raptors. We did get Ibrahim Karambo, though, which is pretty good. And now we have $0, but we somehow can still afford people. So we're going to offer Albert Goodrich, a young power forward, a 2-year contract for around 30 mil. And then we're also going to look at Francis Weber, a solid 3-and-D wing. We're going to sign Calbert Kelly, Travis Hendricks. I mean, we're literally forming a new team here. Some of these guys I do plan on using as trade bait, but for now, we literally had to field an entire roster in free agency because pretty much our whole team was not under contract. Roberto Navarro, the top free agent, leaves the Pelicans. He signs a big deal with the San Antonio Spurs, joining Antoine Higgins in San Antonio. That's going to be pretty nasty. Junior is now better than his father. O'Davious Sheppard is down to an 84 overall. Junior is an 86. He only went up by 1, which is kind of a surprise. So I wanted to go out and get a star. I tried a few players, but I eventually settled on Alton Shaw of the Phoenix Suns, who's really good, and he's pretty young. We're going to be giving up a lot of players, along with a couple first-round picks, but we get the job done. We were able to keep O'Davious Sheppard. We were able to keep Junior. We were able to keep Freddie Woods and Chucky Drew. We also held on to Ibrahim Karambo as well. So I think that move can hopefully really put us over the edge, and at the trade deadline, we're 28-29, and we're the 8 seed. Not exactly what I was looking for, but we have played pretty well as of recent. We started the year like 0-8, so we are doing quite a bit better. Junior got to captain his own team, his second All-Star game. O'Davious Sheppard is also an All-Star. I'm kind of surprised. His numbers have absolutely tanked, but I think maybe because he's the old guy and he's been so good for so long. He's made the All-Star game every year of his career. Maybe the game decided to do him a solid, which is pretty cool. So we have 2 games left against the Magic and the Sixers, and we need to win these games. We have the same record as the Magic. Winner of this game probably gets into the playoffs, and unfortunately, it's not us. The Magic end up beating us, and we lose to the Sixers, so we are not going to make the playoffs. Antoine Higgins ends up winning the MVP. Jr. makes the All-NBA first team, and this is the first time in O'Davious Sheppard's career that he does not make an All-NBA team. He's made either the first team or the second team every year of his career, except for this one. The Magic beat us by 1 game to get into the postseason. Had we won that game against Orlando, we would have gotten in. O'Davious Sheppard's contract thing does not say that he's going to retire this year, so he will be back next year as the Brooklyn Nets, led by 77 overall, Lofar Hasselhoff, wins the Finals MVP. We're better than that team. How did they win the Finals? Looking at the retirements, Dustin Jackson, the former Cavalier, retires. So does Mercedes Ranch III. Other than Ranch, there really weren't a ton of big names of that list. Ranch does make the Hall of Fame. He gets his jersey retired by the Kings and the Heat. We do not own our pick and ended up going to Toronto at 12 overall. I fired Zario Papadopoulos because I noticed Jason Higgins-Wycraft was an assistant coach, and I'd rather have Jason Higgins-Wycraft on the staff considering he is one of the legends of this series. At 41, we selected Greg McDaniels, who ended up being like a 72 overall, which is the same rating as like the 2nd overall pick. So for 41, that's a pretty good selection. He might be a rotation player this year. Alton Shaw declined his player option. He is a free agent, and we need to bring him back, along with O'Davious Sheppard, of course. So we're going to offer them fancy new contracts. We're also going to offer Nando Olivero, and all 3 of them would end up accepting. I also went after shooting guard Randy Wilkins. He's only like 22 years old, and I think he could be pretty good. Most of the big fish in this free agency class stayed on their previous teams as we get to player regression. Junior goes up to an 88. Alton Shaw is now an 86. O'Davious Sheppard goes down to an 80, the lowest rating of his career. Nando is a 66. So here's the rotation going into Season 8 today and the 22nd season total. O'Davious Sheppard is now 37, and I would not be surprised if this is his final season. At the trade deadline, we're doing about average. We're currently the 9 seed. We ended up with 3 All-Stars. Junior made it, Alton Shaw made it, and Freddie Woods ended up getting in. No O'Davious Sheppard, though. For the first time in his career, he is not an All-Star. We're going to simulate here towards the end of the season, and as you can see, look at O'Davious Sheppard, what he says. I don't think I can go through the daily grind of another season. So this is the final year of his career. I simulated up to the last game. We're 39 and 42. We're not going to make the playoffs, but I did want to simcast it, and I wanted to hop in for the final moments. And the game actually ended up being pretty close, so I guess it's kind of worth it to hop in. So these are the final pretty much 3 minutes of O'Davious Sheppard's NBA career, unless he changes his mind on retirement, gets a quick and 1 to start things off. No one else is going to be shooting the ball except for O'Davious Sheppard here to wind out his career on the same court as his son. Certainly a cool moment as he gets the layup. I don't even know if O'Davious Sheppard can dunk anymore. I mean, the guy's 38 years old. Can't really get up there. Certainly not as athletic as he once was. Sheppard then hits the 3. Now at 28 points. Only a 1-point game now. The Hawks might actually win this thing. Sheppard no good. Rebounded by Chucky Drew, who is 28 and 14 in this game. Sheppard then gets some space. Fires up the 3. It's good. And what could be O'Davious Sheppard's final NBA bucket. Now here are his final seconds of his career. The Hawks are going to go for the last second shot. The big man, O'Connor, will get it to fall, but it does not matter. The Cleveland Cavaliers have won the game. O'Davious Sheppard is fired up about, at the surface, what looks like a meaningless win, but likely the final win of his career. He finished with 31 points. We got 10 of those points in the final couple minutes of the game. Antoine Higgins wins his 3rd straight MVP award. Junior ends up making the All-NBA first team. That's cool to see. And as I said, we did not make the playoffs. As we take a look at the final stats, O'Davious Sheppard averaged 15.5 points, 5.5 assists, only 2.7 rebounds. Simulating the playoffs, it's the Denver Nuggets, led by Sergei Titov, who beat the Boston Celtics in the finals. Looking at the retirements, there he is. O'Davious Sheppard is calling it a career. There are a lot of players here in the retirements. We're going to talk about all of them, including Ibrahim Karamba, who finishes his career as a Cavalier. He was on like 10 different teams, but he was a great player. Jeremiah Okoye, the one player drafted ahead of O'Davious Sheppard. Although Indiana probably regrets it a little, What a career this guy had. Over 26,000 points, around 15,000 rebounds, the NBA's all-time leader in blocks and fouls. Terrence Cole is retiring. Cole and Sheppard competed for many years to see who the best player in the league was. I think Sheppard's career, when it's all said and done, is a little bit better. But Terrence Cole, who has 4 championship rings, by the way, is an all-time great. Nando Olivero is retiring as well at the age of 34. He regressed quickly, but at his peak, he was special. Now let's talk about the face of this team, the face of this series, Odavia Sheppard. Get the tissues. Here come the waterworks. Just an unbelievable career. He's the GOAT. He's the greatest player in NBA history. Let me explain to you guys the resume. By the way, as I mentioned, literally his 2029-2030 season disappeared. I don't know how that makes sense. He played that year. We won an NBA championship, but it's just not there, which is odd. So his career numbers are actually higher than what's shown here. His career average in points, 29.9. He could not get it up to 30. That's unfortunate. Over 50% from the field, 42% from 3, 84% from the line. Great rebounder, great passer. He is among the top in pretty much every statistical category. Finished with over 46,000 points, most all time. And if you include the seasons that's missing, that's probably closer to like 48, 49,000. Over 10,000 boards, over 10,000 assists, over 2,500 steals, over 2,500 blocks, a lot of turnovers, a lot of field goals, a lot of threes. His plus-minus at over 13,000 is the best in NBA history. The current all-time best is Tim Duncan, who is at like 8,900. So Odavia Sheppard's plus-minus is 5,000 more. He won 5 MVPs, 10 championships. Again, I know it says 9, but the one season is missing. 19 All-Stars. All-NBA first team a lot of times. All-NBA second team a lot of times. The resume speaks for itself. If we look at his career numbers compared to the rest of the NBA, he is first all-time in points, of course. 4,000 over second place, which is LeBron James. Second in field goals, right behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, only needed another 100 more. Fourth in three-pointers, right behind his former teammate Jason Higgins-Wycraft, and had that missing season counted, he probably would have finished in third. Second all-time in free throws, behind Karl Malone. So pretty much Odavia Sheppard has the most free throws of all time among good humans, because Karl Malone is not that. 84th all-time in rebounds with just over 10,000. 9th all-time in assists. He's ahead of some of the all-time great passers like Steve Nash and Luka Doncic. 10th all-time in blocks. 5th all-time in steals. Although he never made an all-defensive team, I imagine he leads all players in like blocks and steals combined. 4th all-time in minutes. 6th all-time in turnovers. He was also 6th all-time in games played. 32nd in fouls. He wasn't a huge fouler, but, you know, playing in the NBA 20 years, you're bound to be pretty high on that list. He ended up 4th all-time with 40-point games at 266, and he was 6th all-time in 50-point games. In the triple-double category, he also finished in 15th place with 63, one spot below his longtime teammate, Nando Olivero, who had 66. So the resume speaks for itself. He has the statistical dominance. He has the range. He's the best player in NBA history. It's fitting that his coach of all 20 years, Lionel Hollins, also retires. We hired Hollins the same offseason we drafted Odavia Sheppard. So they have literally been together the past 20 years. Hollins now calling it a career. He's probably the greatest coach in NBA history at this point, right? 10 NBA finals with this team. I mean, Pop didn't do that in San Antonio, so there you go. Into the Hall of Fame, Odavia Sheppard, Terrence Cole, Nando Olivero, and Jeremiah Okoye, all very well deserved. So the top 4 picks in the 2022 draft, Okoye, Sheppard, Papadopoulos, and Williams-Garber are all in the Hall of Fame. And the 5th pick, Elijah Ejiofor, did not make the Hall of Fame, but he had a strong 20-year career as well. He also just retired. Okoye, Nando, and Cole get jerseys retired. Where is Sheppard? I assumed that his jersey would already maybe be listed here. It's not. So they're just not going to retire his jersey number? He wore number 21 all 20 years of his career. How are you not going to retire his number? He's been on the team the whole time, and he's been the best player for so many years. That just does not make sense to me. But as we wind out this series, I do want to show you guys some numbers just to show you how much the league has changed. I'm really happy that I turned the shot clock down to 20 seconds for the long-term sim, because that really made things a lot of fun. And really, if you look at this top 100, a majority of these players had the durations of their careers during this series, which is certainly Really cool. The past 18, it's been 18 years of a long-term sim. That's pretty wild. I also want to look at some of the other stuff, such as like three-pointers made. Reggie Miller, one of the all-time great three-point shooters, is not in the top 100 in threes made. Literally all of these guys are guys who played in this series for the most part. Steph Curry finished in like 20th. Ray Allen, I have not even seen him yet. He is way down the board. So that just goes to show. Ray Allen is in 68th. There you go. Jeremiah Okoye, the all-time shot blocking leader, nearly had the same amount of threes made as Ray Allen. That's nuts. Hey, there's Obi Toppin in 99. All of these guys had more threes than Reggie Miller. That's really insane. Assist still belongs to Stockton, although a few guys came close. I also want to look at like the 40-point games and the 50-point games because there are so many elite scores throughout this series. And obviously, again, with the shot clock turned down to 20, it's mainly guys in this series. Even players who you don't know as scorers in real life are very high on this list. Something that really blew my mind was this guy who was named Pisik Bajja. He was a really good young player. He's been in the league 3 years. He has the same amount of 40-point games as Carmelo Anthony. Like, how does that make sense? Even the 50-point games as well. Guys who you would not expect to be on that list. That same guy we just talked about, Bajja, he has like 10, and he's been in the league 3 years. Yet Karl Malone, who in real life has the second most points all time, only had 4. So many Hall of Famers added to this series. LeBron James is still the only 2-time Hall of Famer for what it's worth. Again, I don't know how that glitch happened. But so many players the past few seasons who were drafted into this series turned into superstars, eventually made the Hall of Fame. We, of course, had 2 with Jason Higgins-Wycraft and O'Davious Sheppard, both making the Hall of Fame. So that's pretty much going to end today's episode. I know it was a long one, but I wanted to end this series off the right way because this has been such a fun series. This is without a doubt the best 2K series I've done, and I don't think it's particularly close. I'm not saying my other 2K series were bad, but this one was just so much fun. One of the most fun series I've ever done on this channel, and we've seen so many great players like O'Davious Sheppard, who is now one of the greatest players of all time on this channel as well, and I'm sad to see this series now coming to a close, but NBA 2K22 is right around the corner. It comes out in about a month. Within the next week or two, I will have a poll on the community tab to help decide the team we use for NBA 2K22. So I hope everybody enjoyed not only this episode, but this entire series. This was an absolute blast to do, and I'm really excited for the future of this channel, specifically with NBA 2K22 coming out pretty soon. So for the final time in the Cleveland Cavaliers MyNBA, I hope everybody enjoyed the video. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Peace out.